What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over the Mutant Massacre. Now remember, the Mutant Massacre was the first ever X-Men crossover that was done in the year 1986. Now the whole point of this crossover was that a new group known as the Marauders went into the sewers of New York to kill off a group of mutants known as the Morlocks. Now remember, the Morlocks are a group of mutants who basically hide in the sewers because of their appearance. See, when it comes to most mutants, when their X gene is activated, they only get powers. Except when it came to the Morlocks, yes, they did get powers, but the X gene also changed their body appearance. And so, unfortunately, they were unable to live with the rest of the people of New York because the way they look. And also because the world really does hate mutants a lot. And so if you were a mutant that was not able to technically hide in public, you had nowhere else to go except into the sewers and join the Morlocks. But out of nowhere, this new team known as the Marauders, who are also mutants, but for some strange reason, they're really down with the idea of killing off the Morlocks. Now by this point of the story, we have no idea why the Marauders are down here, but on top of that, who are they working for? Now the next chapter that we are going to cover comes from X Factor number 10. Now I will remind you guys who X Factor is later on in this video, but I kind of want to give you another example of the idea of how ruthless and crazy the Marauders truly are, because we do pick up with the Morlocks, or another group of Morlocks who are currently minding their business, just trying to make dinner. Now at first they do hear a lot of screams and popping noise, but they have a hard time believing that those kind of sounds will be down here in the tunnels. Except as some time passed by, they realize those sounds, those gunshots, those screams are getting closer and closer. And by the time this group realized, oh my gosh, we are being attacked, unfortunately this group of Morlocks do get attacked by the Marauders, and really most of the group is killed off just like that. But then we do transition over to X Factor. Now remember, when it came to X Factor in the early days of Marvel Comics, they were a different kind of team that most people really know of when it comes to the new readers of the current time of X Factor. And what I mean by that is, originally X Factor was the original 5 X-Men coming back together to make a new team. Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Beast, and Angel. Now when it came to their new team, they felt like the new X-Men began to do a horrible job trying to bring Charles Xavier's dream to life, with humans and mutants being able to live together. They also hated the idea that Magneto, who was a good guy, took over the school of Charles Xavier. And so when it came to X Factor, their main goal was to kind of, you know what, let's make a new team and let's really try to bring the dream of Charles Xavier to life. But on top of that, they also pretend to be a group of people who go out of their way to hunt mutants down. Now, it wasn't really them hunting down mutants. Their main goal was to help mutants get into better situations for their lives, to kind of learn how to control their powers and how to use their powers to make the world a better place. Now when we do pick back up with X Factor, it does pick up the last time we saw them in this actual crossover, where they were trying to get one of their own back over to their base to kind of get that person patched up, and that would be Rusty. Now Rusty would become down the road another X-Men character known as Fire Fist, but that's really it. Around this point in time, he was a trainee for X Factor, but in the last video he got injured, and so X Factor is trying to get him back over to their base to give him some medical help. Now, you also have to remember, when it comes to the Mutant Massacre, both teams of the X-Men are currently down here. So you have the X-Men and you also have X Factor. Now when it comes to these two teams, they're both down here, but they're on opposite ends. And so honestly, they're not going to run into each other at all. but they are going to run into the different members of the Marauders and try to stop them to also save the Morlocks. Now, when it comes to X-Factor, they also have another reason, and that is the character Artie. Now, Artie was a young mutant who was technically mute, and the only way he was able to communicate was using his abilities, where he is able to project different kind of images of things that he wanted to talk about. But on the last video, he used his powers to realize that Rusty was in danger, and so he went down the sewers to hopefully find Rusty. Well, unfortunately, when he did get down into the sewers, well, he put himself in danger. And so X-Factor is trying to find him, but at the same time trying to get Rusty back over to their base to get medical help. Now, you do have Angel and Jean Grey being able to get Rusty back over to the X-Factor base to give him some medical help. Now, here comes the problem, Skid. And when it comes to Skid, she is a close friend of Rusty, but also she is a Morlock and a mutant who has the ability to create force fields. Either way, when it comes to Skid, she just finds out that Angel and Jean Grey are part of X-Factor, and to the public, X-Factor are a group of people who go out of their way to hunt down mutants. And so when she finds out that Angel and Jean Grey are technically part of X-Factor, she believes they go out of their way to hunt down their own kind. Now, you do have Angel try his best to explain things to Skid, but unfortunately she's not listening, and so Jean Grey has to trap her in some kind of containment to how to help her calm down, so that once she's able to listen and realize the true purpose of X-Factor, then everything is going to be okay. Now, we do jump back down into the tunnels of the Morlocks, where we actually do pick up with Artie. He's the red looking character, who's also with Leech. Now, Leech is the other young boy who has the ability to cancel out other mutant powers. And on top of that, they're with Caliban, who also a mutant who has the ability to detect other mutants. Now, out of nowhere, they are attacked by Sabretooth. Now, they are able to kind of hide into a smaller tunnel, but of course, they're also saved by Cyclops, Iceman, and Beast, who are looking for Artie. Now, here's the thing, because when they do arrive, Artie, Leech, and also Caliban, they are able to hide into the small tunnel. And so, of course, X-Factor will realize that Artie is nearby. And so, right after you have Cyclops use his optic beam to take out Sabretooth for a short period of time, they're all like, okay, you know what? Artie's not here. We have to continue to search for Artie. But on top of that, Artie doesn't realize that Cyclops, Beast, and Iceman were just there as well. And so, of course, you have our heroes continue on and try to search for their dear friend Artie. Now, real quick, we do jump over to Warren Warrington's company office. Now, Warren Warrington is, of course, Angel. And matter of fact, he has his own company, and he has been using his company's money as a way to fund X-Factor. Now, here's the thing, because he made sure there's no way nobody would be able to make that connection. Unfortunately, he didn't count for Mystique, who was part of Freedom Force. And because her and her team lost in our last video, she went out of her way to share that secret to the world. And this is really bad, because now Warren Warrington, who's better known as Angel, a well-known mutant who used to fight alongside with the X-Men, is now apparently going out of his way to fund X-Factor, another group of people who are well known for being out there to hunt down mutants. Why in the world would a mutant go out of his way and fund a group of people who go out of their way to hunt down mutants? And so this looks really bad for Warren Warrington and also X-Factor. Now, we do jump back over to Cyclops, Beast, and also Iceman, who are going out of their way in the Morlock tunnels to find Artie, but unfortunately, they do run into, well, some more Marauders. And we do get a couple pages of our heroes fighting against the Marauders, which at first, it is a good fight, but you can tell that this was technically used as a way to kind of give us some action, because it has been a while since we saw any big thing happening in this particular book. Either way, once you do have our heroes being able to go out of their way to defeat this group of marauders, you do have our heroes let them leave because their main goal again is to find Artie. Now we have to jump back over to Angel and Jean Grey. And this is kind of important. And the reason why, because around this point in time, Cyclops and Jean Grey were not together because Jean Grey died in the Dark Phoenix saga. And so with her death, Cyclops moved on and married Madeline Pryor. And by this point, they were deeply in love. Now, once Cyclops found out that Jean Grey was alive, he was happy but sad because he could no longer be with the woman that he truly loved. Now, with all that being said, even though Jean Grey found out that Cyclops was married to someone else, she still loved him, but of course realized she could not be with him. But either way, they did put the team together. But Angel kind of feels bad for Jean Grey, but at the same time feels bad for Cyclops as well. And Cyclops is his best friend. But at the same time, Angel still kind of has some feelings for Jean Grey, to the point where we're kind of left to believe, even though we already know it's not going to happen, that Angel and Jean Grey could possibly get together because Cyclops is married now. He moved on. And so she's a free agent and so is Angel. Well, actually, Angel is not a free agent because while you have Angel trying to cheer up Jean Grey because she's very worried for Iceman, Beast, and Cyclops who are still down in the Morlock tunnels, well, Angel girlfriend walks in, Candy. Now, you would think, okay, Angel, your girlfriend just walked in and it looked really bad for you. She ran off. You should probably go chase after her to, make sure everything is okay. He does not do that. Instead, he runs back over to Jean Grey. It's kind of him just taking a huge gamble, hoping that everything is going to work out for him and Jean Grey. Now, we do jump over to a random Morlock, and her name is Plague. Now, when it comes to Plague, she's currently being attacked by two Morlocks. One of them is actually Sabretooth. As a matter of fact, she's able to take out Sabretooth very easily. But the other one is about to, well, kill her off. Now, luckily for her, she is saved by Apocalypse, who just appeared out of nowhere. But he does tell us that when it comes to the Marauders, they have done a great job by going out of their way, killing off all the different Morlocks who are technically weak. The strong has survived, and that helped him to realize who he should select to become one of his 4 horsemen. And so when it came to Plague, he was kind of like, I like her, and you know what, you can become one of my 4 horsemen. And they just leave just like that. Now, we do jump back over to Cyclops, Iceman, and Beast, who are still in the tunnels of the Morlocks. Unfortunately, they do run into more members of the Marauders. Now, of course, our heroes have been doing a great job fighting against these guys, but unfortunately, they do lose this time to this group of Marauders. Now, luckily for our heroes, the rest of their team had just came back to help them out, Angel and Jean Grey. Now, of course, with Cyclops, Beast, and also Iceman being somewhat injured, you have Angel tell Jean Grey to go ahead and get them back to the base of X Factor so that they are able to get some medical help, while you have Angel continue on to hopefully find Artie. But here comes the problem though, because you do have Angel being able to find Artie, which is a great thing. But unfortunately, as soon as he does find Artie, he realizes that he is surrounded by different members of the Marauders, who of course want to kill him off as well. And so you do have Angel being able to hold his own against these guys, but unfortunately, there's too many of them. And so Angel does lose the battle. And matter of fact, they pinned him to the wall by his wings to kind of show that they're just going around killing off people left and right and hurting anybody who tries to stand in their way. Now, the next chapter, we do pick up with the New Mutants, with New Mutants issue number 46. Now, probably at first, you did not see this coming, but remember, in the 1980s, there were 3 different X-Men titles, X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X-Factor, and New Mutants. But of course, New Mutants came in the very middle of this actual crossover, part 5. Now, when it comes to the New Mutants, remember, these are the newest characters to the world of X-Men who are technically still learning how to use their powers and how to be a superhero team, technically. Now, when it comes to New Mutants, they're kind of freaking out. And the reason why? Because of the pet dragon that belongs to Kitty Pryde. Lockheed. Now, when it comes to Lockheed, apparently he's going a tad bit crazy. And so you do have the New Mutants trying to go after him to kind of, calm him down before he does more damage to the actual place. Now, I do want to focus on the character known as Dani Moonstar. Now, around this point in time, Dani Moonstar was the leader of the New Mutants, but she also gained a new ability from a Valkyrie in an earlier storyline. Now, when it came to the ability she gained from Valkyrie, she was able to kind of see death in different kind of ways. And usually when she sees death, that tells her that somebody's going to die sooner or later. And that's kind of really important because you're now talking about the idea of kind of knowing when you or your friends could possibly die. Now, we do jump over to Muir Island. Now, when we do, you already know why, because we pick up with Moira McTaggart. Now, remember, Moira McTaggart around this point in time in Marvel Comics was just a regular human, and that was it. I mean, yes, she did go out of her way to help Charles Xavier out to kind of help him understand how other mutant powers basically work. But again, she was just a human before Jonathan Hickman came in and did a complete change to the character. Now, with all that being said, she is confronted by Magic. Now, remember, Magic is the little sister to Colossus, Illyana. Either way, the reason why she is here is to get Moira McTaggart's help for some unknown reason. Now, while you have the two characters try to teleport back over to the X Mansion, because when it comes to Magic, she has to go through limbo to teleport to places, sometimes she may go back in time a tad bit. And so she has to wait in limbo until time is able to catch up to itself so that she is able to re-enter the main Marvel Universe timeline without kind of, destroying time. But she does tell Moira McTaggart the reason why she did teleport over here is for a very important reason. And that would be the X-Men, because remember, the X-Men got word about what was happening when it came to the Morlocks, and so they ran over to help the Morlocks fight against the Marauders. Now, unfortunately, the X-Men were not completely healed from their last battle against Nimrod. And so unfortunately, when they try to go help the Morlocks, Nightcrawler got injured again. But on top of that, Kitty Pryde powers is not working properly because she was hit from behind by one of the members of the Marauders. Now, with that happening, she's now kind of unable to control her phasing abilities. Now, something else to mention is that the X-Men were able to find some survivors of the Morlocks and bring them back over to the X Mansion. Now, Storm does tell the New Mutants, but also Moira McTaggart, they left Wolverine behind. Not really for a bad reason, only because Wolverine is going to find one of the members of the Marauders to bring in so the X-Men are able to interrogate them to learn more about their actual group. But either way, you have Moira McTaggart realize that there are a lot of people who are severely injured. And so it's up to her, the New Mutants, and also Magneto, who again is the one in charge of the school, to begin the process of trying to help out the different the different survivors of the Morlocks. Now, while you do have our heroes trying their best to help out the Morlocks, you do have Sunspot kind of remind us that when it comes to his abilities, or for him to use his abilities, he has to be charged up by solar energy. And that's a problem right there, because we see that it's been a while since he has been able to be charged up by solar energy. And so because of that, he is unable to carry different things alongside with Colossus. And he almost dropped something that is very important in saving the lives of the Morlocks. Now, when it comes to Magneto, he does get very angry at Sunspot for not being careful. And that right there really does tick off Sunspot a lot, to the point where he does run up the stairs and he goes into the kitchen and he kind of tried to express how angry he truly is. Now, once he's able to see a sandwich, he feels like he has the right to eat the sandwich. Now, he is stopped by Wolfbane, another member of the New Mutants, who tells him that the sandwiches are for the survivors of the Morlocks. And that right there kind of ticks him off a whole lot, to the point where he does call Wolfbane a bunch of names, and it does lead into an argument that does begin the process of the possibility of the two characters might fight against each other. Now, luckily, you do have the rest of the New Mutants come in to stop the two from fighting against each other, because right now their main focus should be helping out the Morlocks, the survivors, because what they went through is a whole lot worse than what the New Mutants are currently going through. Now, we do jump over to two characters, Karma and Magic. Now, when it comes to Karma, she does express that she's very worried about her brother and sister, because by this point in time, they should be home right now. And the problem is, though, when she calls their apartment, they're not home. And so she's very worried about her siblings. And so she does ask Magic to use her abilities to teleport over there to check up on her brother and sister. Now, when Karma and Magic arrive, well, unfortunately, no one is home. And on top of that, all the lights have been turned off. That is very important, because as soon as you have Karma go over to a switch to turn the lights on, we see an explosion, and we're left to believe the possibility that Karma and Magic could possibly be dead. Now, you do have the rest of the New Mutants get word what happened to Magic and also Karma. Not the idea that, an apartment just blew up. It's really more the idea that their two team members just left, and now they're unable to get a hold of them when they call the apartment that belongs to Karma's brother and sister. And so because of that, you have our heroes wondering what should they do. And they know they can't go ask the X-Men, because currently the X-Men are trying to deal with the Marauders and save the Morlocks. And so you have the New Mutant decide they should go out of their own way to go help out and find their missing two team members. Now, here's the thing though, because as soon as our heroes leave, we kind of find out there is a Morlock tunnel that runs underneath the school but leads straight back over into the city. Now, this could be a huge problem, because if the Morlocks use the same tunnel, they will be able to head right over to the school of Charles Xavier. But for right now, we're just going to focus on the New Mutants. And so they begin to use the tunnel as a way to get into New York to check up on Karma and also Magic. Now, while they're leaving, they have no idea they're being followed by Magnus, a character better known as a Technarch. Now, a Technarch is an alien race better known as techno-organic life. Oh, and the reason why he is here is for his son Warlock, who is also a Technarch. Now, when it comes to Warlock, he is a member of the New Mutants, but again, not a mutant. He is a Technarch. Now, when it comes to Magnus, apparently he's very upset with his son. And the reason why, because back on their home world, they were supposed to have a huge battle, but unfortunately, Warlock ran away scared to do battle with his father, Magnus. And so ever since then, Magnus has been trying to get Warlock and bring him back to their home world so that they are able to do battle. But of course, right now, it seems like he's once again trying to find a way to battle against his son. But getting back onto the New Mutants, they do arrive in New York City after using the tunnels that belong to the Morlocks. Now, apparently, as they went through the tunnels, they saw what the Marauders did to the Morlocks. There were death everywhere, and seeing so many different dead bodies, it really bothered the New Mutants a lot. Now, when they do arrive in the city, they do see the apartment building that belongs to Karma's brother and sister. And so once they do see the apartment building is on fire, they believe their two team members are basically dead. Now, luckily for our heroes, they do come to find Magic and also Karma has survived the explosion and they were able to get out using the side entrance. Either way, it's a very good moment to realize that no one had died here at all. And matter of fact, when it comes to Danny Moonstar and her new ability to see death, it shows that technically no one's going to die right now. But there is still a possibility that somebody could die later on. Now, for our heroes, they're going to have to hold off on their celebration. And the reason why? Because of Warlock. Because he begins to freak out. And the reason why? Because he does detect his father nearby. And so he does try to flee alongside with the other members of the New Mutants. Now, when it comes to Warlock, he does not tell his fellow team members what in the world is currently going on. He just grabs them and tries to get away. But unfortunately, they are confronted by Magnus, who again is trying to get revenge against his son and bring his son back over to their home world. Now, the next chapter we're going to cover is Thor number 373. Now, when it comes to this particular chapter of Mutant Massacre, most of the chapter is really more Thor kind of handling things that don't really deal with anything at all when it comes to the Mutant Massacre. And so I'm going to skip over a lot of content to the point where we actually jump to the very end of this actual chapter. And really, when it comes to Thor chapter, the only thing that really matters is that Thor does get word of what was happening down in the sewers, the Morlock tunnels. And so you do have Thor go down there to figure out what in the world is currently going on. Now, when he does arrive, well, he comes to find out the Morlocks are being killed off by the Marauders. But he also hears a particular scream that belongs to somebody that he actually knows. And that would be, well, no other than Angel. This is where we pick up where the X Factor chapter left off at, where Angel was technically tortured by some members of the Morlocks and he was hung on the wall by his wings. And so you do have Thor go down there to, fight against the Marauders, but to also begin the process of trying to help out Angel. And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.